Hi, I'm Jocelyn Smith from the University of Guelph Ridgetown campus, field crop entomology. We're here in a field in southwestern Ontario today to look at corn rootworm injury and corn rootworm resistance to Bt corn. We're seeing a lot of issues in 2020 with this pest in Ontario, and so we want to take a look at an actual case out in the field and explain how this could have happened. We're standing in a second-year cornfield right now, which obviously has already been harvested for silage, but you can still see on the corn stalks that are here, some of them the combine wasn't even able to, or the forage harvester wasn't even able to pick up, but you can see that there's severe root pruning and a lot of goosenecking on these plants from rootworm injury this year. Now, this is a pyramided hybrid for corn rootworm control, which means there were two Bt proteins expressed in these plants to control corn rootworm larvae. However, it didn't seem to work. And why is that? We have resistance here, and the beetles are no longer susceptible to the proteins. This, being a second-year cornfield, is kind of surprising. We usually recommend that you don't plant continuous corn using rootworm traits for more than 3 years in a row. But the problem here has kind of been inherited from the neighborhood, where just across the road, the grower planted continuous corn for more than 3 years. Even though using pyramided corn hybrids for rootworm control for a number of years, resistance was still able to evolve in that field, and the beetles from that field moved across the road, as they often move around later in the summer, into this grower's field, and he's got the problem now. And so he even used a different pyramid hybrid from the one across the road, but the issue is that we have cross resistance with a lot of the Bt rootworm proteins that are available on the market. Essentially, there are only 4 proteins available, and 3 out of 4 have a high risk of cross resistance happening. And because of the cross licensing of these proteins across companies, we're running into a problem where we're getting a lot of use of the same traits or closely related traits in localized areas, and so the beetles are developing resistance that, even by rotating to a different trait package, is not going to give you a sufficient control. In this case, the grower has lost more than 50% of his silage yield in just a second-year corn situation. And so for next year, now he needs to decide what to do. Obviously, a rootworm-traded Bt corn hybrid is not going to provide the protection that he needs because of cross resistance. And so we're recommending that the best thing to do is rotate this field to a non-corn crop to kill, hopefully, most of this resistant population that is in the field. Rootworm, the beetles are still here, actually, and we're at the very end of September. They're crawling around on me as we're standing here. But just to review the life cycle of corn rootworm, so these beetles that are around in the field late summer into the early fall are mating and laying eggs in the soil here in the field. The eggs will overwinter, and in the spring, probably middle to late June, is when they will hatch and begin to feed on the young corn plant roots, the root hairs, and then the bigger roots as they develop, they tunnel, they'll prune, they'll clip the roots right off. And then you have beetle emergence happening again in that field. And so initially the beetles don't move a lot. When they come out of the ground in a field, they'll stay in that same field and find a mate and lay more eggs. But as the season progresses and they have less ideal food to eat, which is corn silk, corn pollen, then they'll move to later planted fields and hang out in those fields and lay their eggs. So if you're in the neighborhood of a field with a heavy beetle population and your corn was maybe planted a little bit later, you're at risk of having heavy rootworm pressure in the following year. There are thresholds to look at for beetle populations late in the summer. If you look and find more than 1 beetle per plant in August and September, then you should, and you're going to plant corn in that field the following year, then you should anticipate needing to control for corn rootworm. If you're in a region where we don't have resistance issues, then a pyramided BT hybrid with more than one rootworm trait is an effective way to do that. But if you're in some of these areas where we're starting to get a lot of resistance, this is not the right not the most reliable management strategy. And so we may need to look at soil insecticides that we would put on top of a non-BT rootworm hybrid. Maybe high rate seed treatments if you can show that you've got those beetle populations there in the summer. But yeah, obviously crop rotation is the #1 way to control corn rootworm in Ontario still. And so we need to really look at continuous corn producers and encourage them to cut back on their use of BT rootworm hybrids in continuous years.